The NFL is expanding. At some point, it is inevitable, it will expand, but what if it didn't just expand? What if it exploded all the way to 40 teams? Guys, today I'm going to be talking about the 10 cities that I think could get an expansion team in a hypothetical 40-team NFL league. No, I don't think it's realistic. There's not enough talent. The league would be completely watered down. You're talking about adding 10 more teams with all, 53-man rosters. We already have starting quarterback problems as it is, but this is just kind of a fun exercise. I'm also going to give my take on who I think is next in terms of expansion for the league. But let's just get right into it. Starting, we're going to go with the European division because they have talked about it as recently as April of this year. There's been rumors the NFL, if they go to Europe, it has to be a division due to scheduling issues. They have to do the division there so they can all play each other and then go to the States for longer road trips. But the number one expansion team in a hypothetical 40-team NFL, it's got to be London, England. And I really contemplated putting another team in London, England. I think they might do that because they've got two beautiful stadiums there, brand new. I would say if London only gets one NFL team in a hypothetical situation, they would go to Wembley Stadium, which was recently renovated, seats a ton of people, has a capacity of around 90,000. So this is the obvious choice with the NFL already playing games there. The number two city, it's going to be Dublin, Ireland. Now, the NFL has not played any games in Dublin, Ireland, but college football has, and college is going back again. They've got a few different stadiums you could choose from depending, several stadiums with capacities of around 70 or 80K. That makes it easier to facilitate an NFL team. You don't have to build a brand new $2 billion stadium. You could just do renovations if they got an NFL team. And I do think in Ireland, there is certainly enough NFL fans to where it would be worthwhile. I mean, you're talking about an entire country there. So Dublin, Ireland, they've shown an interest in college football. I believe they've also got a good enough fan base for the NFL. The number three city is Munich, Germany. So they've got a beautiful new stadium. And this one, another one that's not too much of a surprise. The NFL has already gone to this stadium. That started last year, and it's going to continue. So Munich, Germany, very obvious choice there. The number four city, we're going to go to Scotland. Yes, Scotland, England. And Murrayfield Stadium, maybe a little bit of a hybrid one, but the NFL does have a ton of fans in Scotland, and there have been rumors that the NFL might want to expand the London games, the Germany games to Scotland because of the fan base there. So that would be kind of the European wing. It would be London, England, it would be Ireland, it would be Germany, and then it would be Scotland. So England, Ireland, Scotland, and Germany. Those would be the four main ones for me. I think that's at least semi-realistic, but I'll be honest, I do think if it got to that point, they would put two teams in London. I really think that. But let's go to the number five city. It's going to be Monterrey, Mexico, and this might be a little bit of a surprise not going with Mexico City. To put it simply, I do not believe they can put a team in Mexico City to where they're playing home games at that altitude. So Mexico City has an altitude that's 2,000 feet higher than Colorado, than Denver. It's a huge issue, so it just seems like maybe they could try Mexico City, but Monterrey has a lot lower of an altitude. But either way, I do think this is a more realistic option than Mexico City. They might just say, whatever, who cares about the altitude? I mean, they play the Mexico games, but that's only one game. So it would just be such a big advantage for the players on Mexico City playing their home games at that high of an altitude and getting used to it, like their lungs getting used to it. So that's why I don't think Mexico City is a legitimate option at this point, but who knows? And then this number six city for me in an expansion scenario, it's obvious. It's got to be Toronto, Canada. So the NFL expanding to Toronto. If there's two cities that I would pick because everyone talks about the NFL is going to expand to 32. Who's it going to be? One of them would be Toronto, Canada. It is so obvious. Break into that market. They've played a few games there in like 2012, 2013 at the Rogers Center. You know, you've got one whole nation behind a singular team. There's going to be so much demand, and it's really going to help them. So Toronto, Canada is obvious. I mean, you could go to a different city, maybe Vancouver, you know, maybe somewhere else. I know those have kind of been thrown around, Montreal, but Toronto seems fairly obvious to me as the number 6 city. And then moving on to the states, so this is within the United States, the number 7 city, it's another one. I think it's obvious. It is Austin, Texas. This is another city to where if the NFL goes to 32 teams, I would love to see it in Austin, Texas with a brand new $3 billion super stadium. Austin, Texas is on the rise right now. There is zero competition outside of MLS. You know, you've got no NBA team there. You've got no MLB. It would be an absolute home run. They're getting a bunch of tech into the city. Austin, Texas is going to be a place on the rise, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes to the big 3 or even big 4 with the NHL. Who ends up, you know, does Austin, Texas end up getting a team from one of those leagues? The number 8 city is going to be Salt Lake City, Utah. So another one, very, very popular expansion option here. And this is a market that's really not going to knock your socks off, but you understand, very, very loyal fan base. When you look at Utah University and how great their fans are, you would figure, you know, it's almost why I wonder if the NFL would consider, I don't have this city on my list, Omaha, Nebraska would be interesting. The problem is you would take the hit in terms of the TV ratings because the population isn't there, kind of like Salt Lake City. But I do think it's a situation to where, you know, it kind of reminds me of like a Cleveland Browns fan base, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. It seems like a loyal fan base that would really embrace and support an NFL team. So that's my 8th city. My number 9 city is Oakland, California. So, you know, in this 40-team format, I do think, you know, whether it's not going to be the Raiders, well, maybe it would be. Imagine Oakland got their team back and then they took the Raiders branding and then Vegas had to change their name to something else. But yeah, Oakland, I mean, listen, there's not a lot of competition right now for Oakland considering they're losing their MLB team, they lost their NFL team. That's mainly due to the Coliseum being horrible. If they built a new stadium, they have a fan base that was very, very loyal. Even with the Coliseum, they still averaged at least decent attendance. So Oakland getting a team back, that would be fine, and they would be able to support it. They have enough population for sure, even with San Francisco, you know, right next to them. And then the final city for NFL expansion to 40 teams, I'm going with Columbus, Ohio. And Columbus, Ohio is kind of underrated. People don't realize just how big of a city it actually is. The argument against Columbus is they are obsessed with Ohio State. They wouldn't support an NFL team. But think about it. All they have is the Blue Jackets. They don't have NBA. They don't have MLB. You put an NFL team there, I think it would get big support. It's a good city. Again, a bigger city than people think and a bigger population than people think. So Columbus, to me, would be a good spot for the NFL to go. What do I think is actually going to happen? Because this 40-team format, very, very unlikely. Certainly not going to happen in the near future. I do think the most logical thing right now is a 2-team expansion, and I would say Toronto, Canada, and Austin, Texas are the 2 top choices. After that, you could start talking about maybe the 4-team, you know, European division. It's just so hard. A lot of people always talk about London getting a team. It just doesn't make sense. The travel would not work. You would at least have to have one other team. Could the NFL theoretically do one team in London, one team in Dublin, Ireland, maybe a team in Germany, and do like 2 European-based teams and somehow make it work? Maybe. I still think the most logical plan, if they want to make the scheduling work as fair as possible, would be to do the 4 teams, the huge expansion, and make your own European division. Could they get a team to relocate there? You know, I really don't see that right now, especially with Jacksonville announcing their stadium rebuild. Maybe if they're not able to fund that, that's kind of the team we always looked at possibly relocating. But other than that, I don't really see a team relocating anytime soon. From where the NFL currently is at this point, things can always change, but maybe Jacksonville, if they're not able to fund that stadium. And there are questions about that because it is $1 billion in public funds, and they're going to be debating that soon. So that is just kind of a fun little scenario on the NFL expanding to 40 teams. I think if I was the NFL and I had to pick one city in the United States, it's Austin, Texas. I just think there's such great value there. With the population rising, it doesn't have any other major sports. And then Toronto, Canada is another good one. If you want to kind of get some diehard fans, Salt Lake City, Oakland, California, and then Columbus, Ohio, kind of as a hybrid maybe, bigger city than people think. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.